Okay, welcome back. So let's dive into our practice today, which is standard form of a circle. X minus h whole thing squared plus y minus k whole thing squared equals r squared. By inspection, I want you to be able to identify the center, which is hk. So if you're in that nice, what I call hk form, a lot of textbooks will call it standard form of a circle. But if you detect that it's that nice HK form, you detect the center and you detect the radius by inspection. Radius is little r. So you'll see the r squared and you'll inherently know little r. So let's practice that. Grab a different color here. Identify by inspection the center and radius for this lovely circle right here. Okay, so we do have x minus h whole thing squared plus y minus k whole thing squared equals r squared, if you will. So go ahead and lay a claim on that. So if r squared equals 25, you know r is 5. So we know the radius of this circle is 5. And by inspection, we see hk. We see that's 3, 1. So we know 3, 1 is our center. Now, here's the thing. Trust but verify, right? So in a moment, we're going to pull up the Desmos app, but we're claiming that 3, 1 is the center and the radius is 5. I want to just old school by hand sketch that. So 1, 2, 3, 1. So 3, 1's the center. And then I would have to emanate out, 5 units in every direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I was to sketch this, by hand myself on graph paper. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5 in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have that nice graph paper, and then you'll see this is my lovely artistic abilities there. That's a terrible circle. But if you have graph paper on a test, it'll be fairly easy for you to sketch in your center and draw your circle. But now, let's go ahead to our Desmos app and see what it can do for us. Ignore that. That's an old one that I had. So x minus 3 whole thing squared plus y minus 1 whole thing squared equals 25. You want that nice visual confirmation that that the center is indeed at 3, 1 and the radius is 5. So it's just nice to have that. Okay, let's go to our next example. I'll grab a different color for that. That's x plus 4 whole thing squared plus y minus 6 whole thing squared equals 100. You'll notice that's a little catchy, so let's see if I can scoot that up a little bit. A little catchy because it says x plus 4. It doesn't say x minus 4. And you need, so we get a little slick, right? We say, well, a plus sign can be re-expressed as a double negative, right? So x minus minus 4, we could re-express like that, just so that we could lay our claim and say, oh, okay, so really h is negative 4 and k is 6. And r squared is 100, so clearly r is 10. But here's the thing. If we now claim that the center is at negative 4, 6, and the radius is 10, trust but verify. So it's like type in the original. Always, always, always type the original into your Desmos app and have a look. And see that you confirm that your center's at negative 4, 6. So let's do it. So x plus 4 whole thing squared plus y minus 6 whole thing squared equals 100. And again, now we have this nice visual on a circle that's centered at negative 4, 6 with a radius of 10. Okay, now the next logical question is, what if it's not so pretty, right? What if it's not in that perfect standard form? So, voila. let's take a look. Give myself some room here to write. So clearly this is not in that lovely HK form, so we're going to try to mold it a little bit. If you're looking for a recipe, I would say take the constant, toss it across the equals side, create a new constant. So much like you do with completing the square, so x squared plus 2x plus something. And the reason I say that is because this here trinomial with regard to x is not going to factor. So take that constant and note to self, move it. Move it to the right. Move it to the right of the equal sign. Okay, so x squared plus 2x plus empty box plus y squared plus 4y plus empty box equals, and now 20 minus 7, because I've subtracted the 7 across the equal sign. CTS, complete the square. By now you guys are experts at that, so I'm just going to talk you through it. 2 divided by 2, whole thing squared, makes 1. So if you want to make a recipe, you complete the square with respect to your x trinomial and your y trinomial separately. Complete the square over here, so 4 divided by 2 is 2, squared is 4. But the thing is, if you add 1 and add 4 to this side of the equal side, you better add 1 and add 4 to that side of the equal side. It's all about balance. Okay, now leave myself a little room here. The whole goal of completing the square, as we know from before, is this trinomial now shall factor. So note to self, factor this. This trinomial here will factor. Note to self, factor this. And voila. All right, so that's going to factor into x plus 1, whole thing squared. This is going to factor into y plus 2, whole thing squared. And on this side of the playing field, you just crunch it out. So 20 minus 7 is 13, plus 1 is 14, plus another 4 is 18. When you arrive there, by inspection, you have landed in that nice HK format. And I did want to mention, the lead coefficient on this is 1, and the lead coefficient on this is 1. I'm not going to make it any harder than that this semester, perhaps in pre-calculus or trig or something like that, but I'm not going to make it any more tricky than that. So we're happy that the lead coefficient was 1 on that. Now we can go ahead and lay a claim on our center. Sorry, my pen was fussy there. Center being at -1, -2, so just be careful of that. Don't let the sign, if you need to take that intermediate step where you're writing this as x minus negation of 1 whole thing squared, where it's, so you got your h and your k. But by now I think you're probably comfortable with the center being at -1, -2, and the radius being the square root of 18. It's okay that that's not a whole number. We'll just say the square root of 18. Okay? So now, the fun part. Trust but verify. I want you to take the original, not the part you manipulated, but the original, and put that into Wolfram Alpha. So we have the app, and you see here I've already typed it in, but I'll just do that in real time. So it was x squared plus 2x plus 7 plus y squared, and then I'm just typing in that original equation that we had there, the y squared plus 4y equals 20. So y squared plus 4y equals 20. And you would just hit go if you're in your app. And what's really nice, I wanted to show you this in real time, it draws the figure, it tells you it's a circle, but you hit properties. If you hit properties, you can expand on that. Look at that. Spits out the center and the radius for you. Gives you some other information too. But the center and the radius is what we were checking on. So we have that nice confirmation that we were right. So it's almost foolproof. Like a lot of people say, oh, I always goof up the signs on the center. Well, not if you check it on Wolfram Alpha or Desmos. You can have confirmation of your answer. So, okay, best of luck out there.